Another characteristic we see here is that Dorcas surrounded herself with like-minded people. She surrounded herself with like-minded people, a very powerful characteristic for someone who wants to become an impactful community citizen. Please open with me to Acts chapter 9, verse 38 to 39, and I'll read this to you from the New International Version. It says this: Lydda was near Joppa, so when the disciples heard that Peter was in Lydda, they sent 2 men to him and urged him, "Please come at once." Peter went with them, and when he arrived, he was taken upstairs to the room. All the widows stood around him, crying and showing him the robes and other clothing that Dorcas had made while she was still with them. Amen. Our emphasis is on chapter 9, verse 38, the A part. It says that Lydda was near Joppa. So when the disciples heard that Peter was in Lydda, amen, the disciples, why is that important? I am convinced that the disciples believed in raising up the dead. Otherwise, Dorcas should have been kept and prepared for burial right after she died. However, we are told that the disciples heard that Peter was in Lydda. Then they sent 2 men to him and urged him to come at once. Subsequently, we see that the reason why they wanted Peter was so that he could pray for Dorcas and raise her up from the dead. Amen. So it's very important that we keep like-minded companionship in our community so that we can make maximum impact within that community. Amen. The other aspect we see here is that of Dorcas being a giver. Amen. She was doing good. She made robes for the widows in that community, meaning that she gave her best, not only resources, but she also invested her time. Amen. Please open with me to Proverbs chapter 19, verse 17. And I'll read this to you from the New International Version. It says this: "Whoever is generous to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will repay him for his deed." Amen. Whoever is generous to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will repay him for his deed. There is a reward reserved for givers. Choose to be a cheerful giver. Giving is an act of obedience to the word. However, your obedience in this area is only complete when you give with the right motives. Amen. We also see that Dorcas was selfless. We can safely conclude that she was not a selfish lady based on all that we have seen about her characteristics within her community. Her community was positively impacted by her. Selfishness is not of God. It is of the devil. Do well to identify areas of selfishness in you and ask the Father to show you how to address them. One way to overcome selfishness is to become a giver on purpose. Give your time, give things, give money, give. Do not keep everything to yourself. Amen. Another thing we see about Dorcas is that she understood the significance of investing in others. Acts chapter 9, verse 39b, as I read this to you from the New International Version, says this: "All the widows stood around him, crying and showing him the robes and other clothing that Dorcas had made while she was still with them." Amen. The fact that widows cried, and not just cried, but also showed robes and other clothing that she made for them, tells us that Dorcas understood the importance of investing in other people. And these people showed evidence of her investment through the robes and other clothing that she made. So family, let's learn from Dorcas and become impactful community citizens for the glory of the Lord. Amen.